Hello and welcome to this live interaction with me, Ashish Parekh. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused over 1.1 million deaths, but when you look beyond the numbers, the virus has been a mere trigger, and the majority of the deaths have been resulted in fact due to a cocktail of factors. So this could be not just called a pandemic but also a syndemic, and this is what experts across the world are saying. Now, according to a major global study of human health named the Global Burden of Disease Studies, that's the GBD study, the world is caught in a perfect storm of rising rate of chronic diseases, persistent infectious diseases, and also public health failures that have fueled deaths in the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this particular study has been published in the Lancet Medical Journal as well and has analyzed 286 causes of deaths, 369 diseases, injuries, and also 87 risk factors in 204 countries. So clearly this is a study that is well spanned across, and also it has taken into consideration territories that are usually neglected in all of these kind of medical studies. Now what this study has done is offered a view on the underlying health of the global population and also the impact of COVID-19 on that particular global health. Also, the study has added that the overlap of the coronavirus pandemic with a continued global rise in chronic conditions such as obesity, diabetes, with added environmental risks such as air pollution, all of this has contributed to coronavirus death toll. Now, conditions such as high blood pressure, high blood sugar, obesity, and high cholesterol also, which are suffered by millions across the world, have played a critical role in driving the COVID-19 death rate like you're looking at it right now. Also, the study has found that the leading causes of ill health in people aged 50 and older worldwide were heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, and in younger people aged 10 to 49, road injuries, HIV, AIDS, lower back pain, and depressive disorders were dominant. To speak to us more about this particular study and help us understand what exactly this is and help us analyze this particular study, I've got with me our expert for the day, who's Dr. Manjunath Malige, who is the Chief Endocrinologist at the Aster RV Hospital. First of all, thanks a lot, Dr. Manjunath, for joining us on this live interaction. My first question to you is, what do you make of this particular study? Do you also believe that COVID-19 would not have been as deadly as it has been if not for the other factors coming into the picture?
Thank you, Ashish. You are very right in pointing out the important findings of the Lancet study. Now, what is important to understand for a common man is that COVID-19 is something that we are in the midst of. Exactly. But who are the ones who are at particularly high risk of developing complications due to COVID-19 infection? These are, as you already mentioned, people with uncontrolled diabetes, people with high blood pressure, people with heart ailments like heart failure or heart attack, and people who are obese. Exactly. Now, any other comorbid conditions can also contribute to the increased risk of complications due to COVID-19. Being an endocrinologist, the commonest thing that I see is that these people, particularly the uncontrolled diabetes patients, are the ones who are at high risk of not only just catching the COVID infection, but also developing COVID-related complications. So the main group of patients who are at risk are uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension, heart problems, and people with obesity.
Also, now, Doctor, one other thing that I had to ask you is that what exactly does this mean for our fight against the coronavirus? Because clearly, it isn't just the virus, it isn't just the coronavirus that we are battling, it's a whole cocktail of diseases and infections that we are up against right now.
That is right. That is right. We are still in the process of exactly understanding the whole conundrum of what coronavirus is going to do to various organs in the body. Coming to my own specialty, endocrinology, now there are various articles that have come out saying that coronavirus actually can cause a lot of thyroid problems, pituitary problems, adrenal problems, and a whole lot of hormonal issues in COVID patients. Now, this is something that we did not know in the month of March and April because we didn't have enough caseload to study. Exactly. But now we have clear evidence to say that there is evidence to say that the COVID infection does definitely upset the hormonal balance in the body. And in patients with diabetes particularly, given the fact that most of these patients will be put on what we call as steroids, the blood sugars really go high. Exactly. And most of the patients who are on tablets will end up needing insulin for control of blood sugars. And as you rightly pointed out, all this will add to the extra burden to the body to go through apart from COVID infection. And it also increases the risk of COVID complications, and that is where the death rate also increases.
Exactly. Also, Doctor, now one other thing that a lot of people are talking about, yes, this is my last question before we wrap up the live discussion, is Syndemic is the term that is coming out. We've heard about epidemic, we've heard about pandemic, but syndemic is something that a lot of doctors across the world, experts in your field also are pointing out that this is a syndemic, which means that there is some sort of a synchronous development of various ailments that is happening in the human body, and that is resulting in the death, and it's not just a virus. So how do you explain syndemic to all our viewers who are watching right now?
I mean, this is a relatively new term that has been coined up. Now, this basically means that what we are talking about is just COVID, but it's not just COVID, but there is so many para-COVID things that happens in patients with COVID-19 infection. Okay. It affects not just the chest or the lungs, as we know, but it affects various other organs of the body, be it the heart, in terms of increased risk of infections of the heart called myocarditis and heart attack, be it brain, where it can cause brain attack or stroke, be it kidneys, where it can increase the risk of kidney failure, be it thyroid, where it causes fluctuation of thyroid hormones due to thyroiditis, and it can also cause what we call as multi-system failure. In fact, if you look at the data of the patients who actually have unfortunately succumbed or died due to COVID infection, they all end up in a state called as multi-organ failure, wherein more than one or two systems of the body are failing. That's the lungs, the heart, kidneys, and the whole immune system will be failing.
Exactly. You're talking about, the immune system and also various other very vital organs failing as well. So before we wrap up the discussion, just a couple of quick tips to our viewers who are watching right now. As an endocrinologist, you watched a lot of cases, you dealt with a lot of cases. Just a couple of tips for our viewers right now to make sure that, even if they don't have coronavirus, they don't really end up having other things that could aggravate the situation. A couple of tips for them.
Yeah, the important tips are these. Number one, if you are a diabetic patient, please ensure that your diabetes is really well controlled. High blood sugars will put you at risk of putting at risk of catching COVID infection, but also increasing the risk of complications due to COVID infection. Exactly. And secondly, if you have any symptoms that are unexplained and if you are still COVID negative, please see an endocrinologist, because we have quite a few cases which are presented to the endocrine clinic due to COVID infection and its complications. And this is very brand new, that the medical fraternity is just awakening to these complications of COVID in the endocrinology. So good blood sugar control, see a proper endocrinologist. If you need to go on insulin because you're on sugars, please go on, don't hesitate. And insulin can be stopped once you come out of the COVID and your situation improves. But seek expert help is the top tip.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Doctor, for joining us on this live interaction. That was Dr. Manjunath Malige from Aster Hospital, Chief Endocrinologist, clearly saying that COVID-19 is not as simple as it looks. A lot of people think that you get fever, you get cough, that means you might have COVID-19, and you deal with it, you get out of it, that's over, that's the end of the game. It's not that seen at all. There are a lot of factors that come into the picture, and also a lot of complications, which is why the new term, which is syndemic, is coming out in the picture. And also he clearly explained what exactly you can do to stay safe as of now. So do let us know what you guys think about the video in the comment section below, and also do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News9 Digital. Thanks a lot for watching.